Hello, I'm Michele Tittler from the Political Organization and Race-Based Law out here in Vancouver, British Columbia, where we are on technically unceded territory, land. The Aboriginals have claimed more than 115% of British Columbia, even though they can quite clearly see in 2015 that many other people from around the world and who've raised children here for generations, this land is definitely ceded, but apparently we're in some kind of a land claim fight in British Columbia. In fact, we're in that fight all the way across Canada, and this is an election year in 2015. Should be the most important subject that we talk about, only it's not on anyone's agenda. It hasn't been in the debates, and it's not being talked about by any of the media, and yet it is the #1 subject in Canada. Who owns land? The natives from the Pan American Games in summer of 2015, the Mississaugas of New Credit, an Aboriginal tribe of 1,000 people, have claimed that the area of Toronto is their traditional territory, and so they were introduced to the world at the Pan American Games as the people who used to own the land of Toronto. That's actually not really true. They stole it from the Iroquois. Yes, they were only on it there in that area in Toronto for 100 years. They came down from northern Ontario, where they still claim a lot of the territory up there. But the Mississaugas were not originally from Toronto area at all. And yet we've introduced them to the world as that. And this is what's going on across Canada, is the Aboriginal tribes are claiming traditional lands. These were ceded treaty lands. Clearly ceded treaty lands. All of Ontario is ceded treaty land. There's no reason to be introducing any tribe as it being their traditional land. It's actually false that it's their land at all. And in fact, the Iroquois, whom they stole it from the Huron. Killed. They all, they wipe each other out. They fought each other for all the time before Europeans came here and settled and created Canada. The Aboriginals, the tribes across Canada, fought each other for land. And so that's what we're still seeing going on here too now. The people who have been living in Toronto for the last 200 years have actually, that's their traditional land. They've had it longer than the Mississaugas did. So what are we talking about here? These tribes moved around. They were not often in one place for super long periods of time, and they never once staked claim to territories, nations that didn't have economies. These are new times. This is Canada. We are the nation. They are the tribes. The fact that we're arguing with clearly, we've got a problem here in BC in that they're saying all of this land is unceded. Now they're going to argue that it's all theirs. But aside from that, in all of the territories that have already been covered long ago by treaties, they're being argued in court case after court case after court case, all taxpayer paid for across Canada. Didn't get enough money. These same Mississaugas argued that the treaty that they signed in 1805 didn't give them enough, so they went back in 2010 and got $145 million from the government of Canada because they said that for 1,000 people. $145 million because their first treaty in 1805 wasn't enough. This is ridiculous. We have to stop this. Clearly, even signing treaties with these people, they can't honor the treaties. It's the natives who do not honor the treaties, and they walk around telling these lies all over the place that Canada doesn't honor the treaties. We need to get out of all these negotiations. It's all race-based. It's all discriminatory. It discriminates against anyone who is not their race. It's clearly not working. Any kind of negotiations we go into, the next generation have been raised to take Canada back to court and argue about those lands again, saying they didn't agree with what their ancestors signed. So, I mean, this is just a perpetual problem. 500 years later, we've got a band of 1,000 people claiming that the Pan American Games are taking place on their territory when they killed people for it. They stole it from other people. The only people who do not pay for land in this country are the Aboriginals. The only people, technically, who steal land, who stole land in the past and who are still trying to steal land, are one group of people who use their race to claim that the land can only belong to them. There is no long history here of other people living here. It's our ancestral land. It's our traditional land. And I certainly know no other land or home. It's my home. It's my ancestors' land too. We got to stop these conversations. They're just not right. Traditional land is really just a sly way of saying it's all our land. Traditional territories, traditional land, don't fall for it. This is Crown land, it's Canada. The Aboriginals were already given large pockets of land that they've just clearly not been satisfied and not been able to still maintain a healthy culture. So it's just, and now claiming the resources are theirs because the land is theirs, basically running the country because of their race. It's just gone too far. This should be the most important subject in all of Canadian politics. We can't get around it. We shouldn't even be talking about business or the economy, anything, until we talk about who owns the land. And we have to get out of race-based. We have to end race-based law, get out of all race laws. And I even still believe this treaty process has obviously never worked. The Aboriginals simply just do not honor the treaties. And now we're going to go into treaties in 2015 with Aboriginals here in BC who are our sisters and brothers. We work with them, we go to school with them, and suddenly now we're all going to have a land fight in 2015. It's ridiculous. I want to know why Aboriginal leaders are not more responsible about ensuring that their own people aren't being discriminated against because of this constant divide that Aboriginal leaders are creating with all these land claims. It's simply not your land just because you're one race. Canada, it's simply not their land just because they're one race. And race-based law.